All right. Looks like the stream has started. So I don't know if I'm keeping this part in YouTube, but basically I want to just sit here and rant, rave, talk about my experience with her, the perceptions of her, what I think will be the future of this character. Um, and that may not matter to a lot of people since right now people are looking at season 1 of the game and thinking about how top heavy it is and all that. And all the characters to some degree that aren't Hotaru, Hein, and Hoku Tomorrow are generally people are looking at those characters and go, well, there's something wrong with these characters. The kind of exceptions to that would be like to a lesser degree Billy, Marco, probably Preacher. But everyone else, well, basically, well, Mr. Big, we're putting him aside. Everyone else will pretty much tell you that their characters all suck. You know, people are down on Joe. Um, People aren't really down on Andy, but he's not top 3, so people like Andy, Salvatore, Gato. Tizak's another story. Vox and Rock, especially, those are two under the radar characters. Terry, Jenny, Kevin, Dong. Ronaldo is kind of in the same category as Billy and Marco, but and in these two, some people will tell you that Chun is great. A lot of people will tell you that Ken is trash. But yeah, most of the people looking at these characters are just perfectly willing to just say that they're useless and whatever. And that'll come from all kinds of folks, people who are grinding the game, people who played the game for a week, people who only play rank, whatever. So there's a lot of things kind of going on about this game overall. And I think, for the most part, my opinion on this game is, for the most part, every character has something of real merit to them. It's just a matter if they can keep up at the highest level. Like, you can make an argument for Tizlock not being able to do that, but like he still has guard cancel, command grab. He still has pretty good normals. So like, if you want to play him and function in like ranked, he's fine. But people don't really want to hear that because we've come to I guess a point where my character has to be very effective on all levels for it to matter. People like Xiao have to pick my character for it to matter. That's what it feels like anyway. But all that ranting aside, I want to focus on this character who I played in the beta because really I wasn't really going to get into this game too much. I was picking up Mark of the Wolves and I was playing Hoko Tomorrow, who doesn't really, ironically, as good as he is in this game, he doesn't really scratch the same itch he did for me in Mark of the Wolves. And I think he's the same but a lot different. And ironically, I think he's actually still pretty strong in Mark of the Wolves, despite people putting him in the bottom 3. I think he I think now that the game has like very obvious rewards that anybody can get pretty easily, characters that already have solid movesets like Otaru and Hoku Tomorrow are gonna shine because they can throw EX behind something, they can confirm things without needing super, and they can get pretty strong setups and whatnot. You could argue that the neutral were pretty good before too. They just couldn't really get much reward. But all that to say, we kind of land on mine. Mine's an interesting character. Yo, what up, man? I'm just doing my rant that I'm gonna just kind of slap on YouTube, bro. And if anyone comes in here, I'll just make that part of it and all. But yeah, so this is the character I kind of landed on in the beta because I wasn't really feeling the game all that much, and I said, okay, they'll, I always like I never cared to play her in like KOF or CBS2 or anything like that. Um, but I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I like mine enough to give it a shot. And she seems a bit different in this game, so it won't be like comparing her to a lot of the other stuff from before, even though she has a lot of the same tools. She's a bit different. Like she kind of goes closer to the quote unquote, I hate to say the word Shoto archetype than more than the Weasley kind of squirrel jumping around the screen and putting big buttons out. Uh, so my experience in the beta was I only played like 2 people because I'm not really in the betas that much, but a couple of people asked, so I played them. And my general impression was Okay, this feels a little like City of the Mark of the Wolves, and why does it feel all that impressive? You know, shouldn't seem to do anything too crazy because I didn't know much about the game yet. I figured, you know, I can DP people, I can poke them, and most people didn't know how to play the game. So I said, okay. So the actual game comes out, and my initial instinct was, I was probably going to play someone like Box or Marco, like and take it kind of seriously once the game came out. Maybe even Hoku, since I played him in Mark of the Wolves. But I was like, you know what? I just kind of stuck with mine because you know, I didn't care about the game all that much. And so I did my usual thing where I opened up my notepad and I was like, I'm gonna take a bunch of notes. And then I kind of thought about it. I do that in every game, and then I don't end up playing it very much, or I play it a little bit only with like one or two people. So I said, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do something way different this time. I'm just gonna jump head first into the game. I'm gonna play anybody I see asking or some, and I'm gonna jump into ranked. Ranked I haven't done since I think early Street Fighter Five. I played some ranked. That's the last time I ever played ranked in a game. I generally don't like ranked in fighting games. That's because I don't like playing online as a general thing. But even beyond that, ranked always feels kind of like a waste of time, kind of weird. But I decided to do it, and man, oh man, it was an interesting experience. Because as I kind of was learning the game, I was kind of getting. Most people would frame this as randomed out, right? I would be playing, trying to poke, and then I would be, you know, be successful because I have a good amount of 2D knowledge and basics. I'm not the best out there, but I know what I'm doing. I like to think. But you know, eventually someone would like, you know, do the rev flow, do the jump, and then I would die. And I didn't really know how to defend myself in this game. I argue I still really don't. But it was an interesting experience, and I was struggling. So, like a lot of people at this time, especially early in the Discord servers, you know, say, "Oh man," and what little of Twitter I was looking at, or what people would post on Discord. Oh man, this character's trash. I don't know how SNK can release this trash. Like I've seen there was a couple of servers where people were dedicated. I don't know how you can play this character. And I was like, you know, I don't like to come to that conclusion until I actually look at it. But like at the time, I was losing enough. I was like, yeah, this feels kind of bad given all the stuff other characters do. And so like I didn't believe it, but you know, it's one of those things where the idea is out there, and so I was willing to entertain it to a degree, a lot more than I am now. And so I sat down and I tried to, and after playing a lot of ranked, I would sit down and go to training mode, learn my combos, learn setups. I was posting stuff that nobody else was really posting because nobody's really posted about mine. There's a lot of random stuff on my YouTube about how to convert. Because there was a lot of people week one actually going, oh man, she can't even convert. Her supers don't work. Da, da, da. They were just, because she is a bit bizarre initially about how to get like real damage out of her. Because even now, I look at some of the people who are legendary ranked with her, they do very questionable stuff when they convert with her. I do too, but mostly because I panic, you know, not because of the lack of knowledge. But some of these guys, you know, they look like they're pretty strong overall with their decision making, and then they'll do like very questionable stuff on hit. So it's like, yeah, even now people still don't really know, and sometimes I even look and I go like, if this is like the top player that people are looking at, I see why they go, well, this character needs a bunch of buffs, mainly because you know they're not doing the stuff as much as they could. There is like Crazy Sal, VAK, DP Tag, Cross KOF, who I think does a lot of the great things, but that's kind of rare. A lot of them kind of rely on their neutral decision making and just overall game sense. But all that to say, I kind of see why people come to the conclusion, even if I don't agree with it, that this character is not very good or is like the bottom of the barrel. There's a lot of people go, well, outside of Tizog, she's down there and da da da. But I don't think that's true. And I think,
Feast your eyes on Shiranui ninjutsu.
ironically, the reason I came to
I
this conclusion,
smell adventure.
yeah, I bet you did. The reason I really came to this conclusion was funny enough is that I played Xrd, Guilty Gear Xrd, for the longest time competitively. Yo, what up, McPanther? I'm not really actually laughing anything today. I'm just kind of talking about this character Mai and her position in the game. It's just kind of just my New Year's thing, but I'm glad you popping in. Always glad to see you, McPanty. But yeah, so I played Exer, a character named Faust, who has these long, lanky normals, but a lot of recovery. But in exchange, he can put out like lots of items that can control the game. But he's a very esoteric character. He relies on kind of being aware and doing things that are kind of offbeat on how the other characters do it. The other characters, they generally get the hit, the counter hit, and they go, okay, let me confirm this, let me confirm this. Faust moves the game state to something that's more and more favorable so it snowballs out of control, and then he does that stuff. But if you just look at him from a straightforward perspective in a game where people can air dash, run, and do all that, it's like, well, why would I play this lanky, pokey character that has to do this, and that, and the other? And even then, I lost for like 3 months playing that character. I couldn't beat anybody, even players who didn't really seem all that great because, again, the other characters were so straightforward in that I can hit, do this kind of pressure, and do all that. But as I learned more and more, the thing that unlocked Faust for me was not some mysterious combo. It was awareness, the one items and stuff like that. But what really, really, really unlocked this character, and this is what really put me on to my being fairly strong in this opinion, not like secret top tier, but fairly strong, was that when I sat down and looked at the other characters, like how do I interact hitbox to hitbox with these moves? How do I get out of these positions using these unorthodox things? Like a big example here. Actually, I can't use Jenny because she cheats with her rev buff. But this is something I've kind of been showing people, and I put out a video of this. But here's something, it's a little unorthodox, because most people, when you're not an SPG, I'm going to go ahead and put this on block. So I'm going to do a little bit of labbing here. Guard, and I'm going to set this to rev low. So most characters, I guess I should actually set them to guard first. So most people handle it like that. If you're really aware, you can super through it. And then, but a lot of the times what happens is people kind of pressure, get knocked out by it. Mine has this unique option. I'm not gonna do it in the front. It has a unique option. See, I hate when I'm doing stuff in the front of the crowd. So basically, she has a command jump. Let me do that first. It kind of gets her out of the way. So you have to kind of like, and so you can basically counter that if you're not in overheat. And then there's even another option. I like how I can do it. But yeah, she has enough options to kind of get around these stuff, even if she's in overheat, as long as you tailor your pressure right. And so I started learning more and more of these little nuances she has. And at first, I kind of despaired, like, I was one of the people like, because here's the big thing that every my player complains about. And actually, let me turn off the, I can tell you, I'm gonna tell you why this is not a real complaint. But this is what they complain about. She has this far-reaching tool that can start pressure, and at the ranges where she would kind of want to use it against somebody, it just whips over them, and it gives them an opportunity to wild punish you in return for paying enough attention. Online, it's probably not gonna happen that much, but in a general sense, that's what happens. And so you get this thing where a lot of people are like, well, I want to press this thing because it's really good, because if they do stand up, I can go in for pressure. I can go +2 off of an EX. If I happen to hit, I can do this, and then go into a combo. There's a lot of stuff you can do because it's a big, chunky button that enforces, movement on the screen, and it allows you to start pressure and start combos under more circumstances. And although it's not really fully meant for this, in certain circumstances you can actually kind of depending on what the person's doing. So it's a pretty multifaceted tool. It stops movement. And so one of the things that I kind of run into, even to this day, is that when I'm trying to poke the I'll do that and I'll get whiff punished because I want to like get my damage because I'm greedy. But yeah, because a lot of people like on defense, they tend to want to jump out. So that's a very common scenario because that move covers a lot of space. It's a good button. It's a strong button. But a lot of people hyper focus on the thing that they can't do, which is this. And so this is probably if you were to sit down with anybody who's not like actually playing the character and only played it for like the first week or month or so, and they said, "Oh, I don't want to do this." This is probably what they're gonna point to. Outside of just comparing their character to the top tier, which is what most people do anyway. And so, like, one of the big things I kind of had to do is go, well, I have to think about this. What can this character do? And then that's when I kind of started realizing, and this is back when, at the beginning, the very first patch, um, first set of patches, I should say, is where she could wave dash. So this was like a lot faster. So if I was like right here, like that took 3 dashes, that probably would have took like 1.5 to get right to where Rock is. It was really stupid that she could just basically slide up to the screen in almost an instant. And so this is one of the reasons why I actually thought Mai was actually really good. Because on top of like all the controls she had with stuff like this, strong wild punish potential with that, you can just zap in somebody's face and then start putting pressure on them. You drive down that face. And I had to sit down and learn how I really wanted to put pressure on people. But yeah. But most people don't have that kind of imagination enough to go, well, what else can I do? And after they kind of changed the wave dash, you can't really do that as much anymore. You can still cancel normals into a dash. So even then, this is still pretty, well, not that. This stuff like that's still pretty good. I've learned to love this. And the main reason for that is on counter hit, when you get close, you can just get a close C. Because special property in this game is that when you do a multi-hitting attack, I shouldn't say normal, multi-hitting attack, all of the hits carry the counter hit frame data counters over to everything. So if I do this, I'm +9. So I can connect that to 2C. So this is very common. So like I'll dash up and if I see a counter hit and you have 2 hits. So you have 2 hits to confirm it. Same with this. Usually you have to go into close C, but you can go into 2C, get more damage. Because 2C and far C have the same amount of damage. So once I started putting more and more of this stuff together, the character started kind of coming together and making a lot more sense. I experimented with that. So yeah. That's the other thing. Another thing people might point to actually is the fact that her DP is not. Her DP is 6 frames instead of 5 frames, not the fastest. And her DP break is 9 frames, which is usually it might usually be 6 or 7 for a lot of the other characters. So hers are slow. That means that you can't do stuff like this and frame trap people. Like I would say Hotaru could at the beginning, once before she got a range nerf on her DP. But some characters like Marco and stuff, they can kind of pump out some normals and then kind of bait you with the frame advantage. That comes with the DP break because they're fast, and then they can get some damage off of that. And so I pointed out to people who would say this, it's like, well, you can just use this. Well, that's -2. Or no, that's not. That's -2, and then you can hedge, with just defend, and then you can cancel into it again, or even guard cancel DP. And the big argument I got from that is, well, this is multi-hit. You can just, hyper defense. That's not good. And then, but these same people would go and talk about how Billy has stupid pressure from doing far C into the cane pullback, which had multiple hits, which he is very vulnerable to hyper defense on those, the same way Maya is, except the timing's even easier technically. But those are still kind of hard to do overall, especially in the heat of the moment. And then you can knock Billy down, and if he doesn't have super, he just has to kind of eat whatever pressure you do. And I pointed that out. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so, the more you kind of talk with people about these things, the easier it is. But most people don't, I guess, really want to talk. They just want to say things, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of the journey I was in, and I guess I was also this character has a lot of moving parts. I feel as like as far as learning neutral and becoming good, and then on top of that, I was learning the actual game. Like one of the things I kept trying to do was throw people, and then they would fuzzy. I guess now that I kind of realize that most people will kind of fuzzy jump, but a lot of people just like even when they get hit, they counter hit, they'll just automatically hold up because for the most part, there's not a lot of strong confirming tools outside of the direct hits, and so a lot of people, like I say, they get hit by something like this while they're neutral. A lot of people's instinct is just to do this or hop, and so like if you dash up throw, then they get to like 40% you for something that would have just done a little bit of damage. Also, SNK killed my safety from this.
SPG.
It used to be +9, but now like the game eats a frame dash. But anyways, yeah. So I was lacking consistency, or I would try pressure, and then I was like, okay, this person's blocking, so I'll do this, and then they would hold up, and then they would knock me out, for 40 to 50%, because I want to keep doing this, and then if I do this, they'll generally guard it. And so, like, a lot of people would just do kind of this constant, since the throw protection is fairly strong in this game, they do this constant block, hop, block, jump, block, backdash thing. And so that's kind of a big hurdle I came up with with Mai, especially because a lot of her stuff is not, one, she's a dash character, and then after they killed wave dashing, you have to commit pretty hard. So that's kind of when my opinion of her kind of cooled down. But generally, I still like her a lot because, one, she is a pretty deep and interesting character. And I think, like, to unlock her, when you do know how to use this, you have to learn how to use her normals in a game where people are kind of moving around a lot, which is understandable. The part of Mai I haven't really unlocked or really explored yet is the more crazy part. Some people like Walmart and other Mai players I come across online like to do this stuff. They like to just dance around the screen, and they like to do that a lot. And I kind of came off of doing that because a lot of people just block in this game. They block and they walk back, block and walk back, block and walk back. So I was getting wild punished a lot. But then I kind of realized after playing them that if I come across somebody who is hyperactive enough, this does a lot. You get a lot of counter hits which will launch off of a dive. So yeah. But Mai has a lot of unique strengths. Let's see if I can demonstrate one. Let me pull up my Evernote real quick, or my OneNote, since Evernote is garbage. Yeah, I use basic Windows technology now. So, let me pull up this list. So, a lot of characters, every character in the game has this target combo where you go close A, into close C, into far C, and then you can go into sweep, into overhead, which for every character nets a +2. Or you can go straight into the far C, which is punishable, but it'll get you a knockdown on the hit. So a lot of people's pressure kind of relies on this because, one, you can go partial. Then you can cancel every hit into rev blow. That isn't the sweep or the overhead. And if they don't do anything, and you can do the overhead or the sweep from any part, or the sweep or the kick. So a lot of this is something I need to implement more too, is using this in pressure. So the same thing. This move can key you off a lot of stuff. But the big thing I want to get to is a lot of characters, she can do something a lot of characters in the game can't. Only a few characters can. And I think this is one of the big differentiators for her. So Rock has a 5-frame standing light punch. So it enforces a lot of stuff if you try to move around it, and this is far light punch. So this is kind of a unique power in this game. So for Mai, one of the things she can kind of uniquely do is frame trap that kind of thing with her rev blow. So if she's an SPG, this pressure becomes even better. So crumple off the close C, crumple off the far C, and crumple off that. And so if somebody wants to press on you when you're doing that, because that's the counter. If someone's throwing for the overhead, is that you button mash. And you can you can react to that, but a lot of people still want to press buttons there. This was even better before the last patch. Because in the last patch, you could stuff out the first frame of a counter ref blow with yours. So if they had SPG and I did this, they would still get crumpled. Now, you know, frame 1 SPG has frame 1 armor when it's counter ref. When it's a counter ref blow, so now, you know, I would lose there. But yeah, this is a really strong pressure tool. Because it ends in, let me turn it off. Because you can end here at -2. You can end here at -4, but look how far you are. And so, let's see. I can't remember what rock does that'll reach me, but we'll just keep life punch. Let's say, I can't remember. So right there. So the rock play is like, okay, I have some advantage. I think they might run in, or they might not know how far, and then you get a big combo. So again, Mize is unique because she can frame trap off the ref blow, which makes it scary in general. So this is something I learned from other my players, kind of berating me. And I still don't really use it that much because I kind of autopilot and stuff like this because it kind of auto frame traps. So I just kind of got to get out of that lane for it. But that's one of the things I think is really good about my. There was something else about this I was going to point out. But yeah, if they don't do anything at all, like for example, they don't know or they're too afraid of what might happen, you can just keep doing this. Oh, I know what it is. So you get that a -2 and it puts you in close A range. Now the thing that people usually use to counter pressure is ref. So for example, this is a big one. So if I see this, I can't autopilot my flow C because it'll send me out, which does this move here. Even though it'll hit, they can low profile with like a sweep. So let's get an example of that. I don't know if rocks will work, but it should. So right there. Usually that would be a close C. And it would frame trap them, but since I got pushed out just enough before my 6 frame, instead of getting a 6 frame, I now get an 11 frame move. So yeah, it doesn't. It just changes up the dynamic. But oops, I didn't mean that. It can never push you out of like your pressure. And if I stop, it's just even worse for me. So a lot of these things, I just kind of just sat down and I started putting more and more of these things together, and I'm like, why are people calling my bad? But like a lot of people don't know this kind of thing, and even when I tell them, they tend to go quiet or they don't want to talk about it. And I think it's more like because they don't really want to have to do, what can I say, off the cuff stuff. Whoops. Off the cuff stuff to kind of get any kind of advantage. I don't know why I'm not getting my break. There we go. And so another big one. Let's see if I can do this. Is that she can stop every DP break. And another thing that's kind of unique for her, and actually Mr. Big, now that he's out, he can do it too, but she's the only character who can really do this consistently, is, let's see. Hers beats every DP break in the game. Her, guard cancel, rep block. So you have a character that can approach you, and then commit to like actually hitting her out the air without doing like a very late DP, like a, let's see if I can do it. There's like a, there it is right there. There's like a space where you can't just defend, or if you go too low, he can just hit you. So they have to go for a real deep, like, in here. That counts for CR2. So it's like a range, and that's even hard because if he misses it and you block, you get this. You should get a punish. And you can still punish. You're not gonna get the counter hit launcher, but yeah, this is a character that's hard to anti-air. And then if you're one of those people who try to do it on reaction, you see I'm now on +5. So a lot of air stall actions. That's another big one. Though hers are more committal than like say a Hoku Tomorrow's, or even a Dongwon. So yeah, these are all kind of strengths when you consider that this button does control a lot. But not, a lot of these things are very much strengths, but you just have to kind of put them together bit by bit, character by character, interaction by interaction. But the more you do, the more I feel like easier becomes the win. So a lot of times I just play match. I'll just throw stuff like this out, and then I'll get a counter hit randomly, or they'll block it. And if they're a jab presser, then I'll buffer in just defend DP sometimes if I'm really on it. And a lot of times I'll just do like this, and then I'll just jab and do it again. And that's if they don't know better, or if I think they might mistime their button. So that's just kind of cheese, but yeah. Another thing I discovered is her pressure's pretty variable. Let me turn off. Oops. Let me turn this off. Turn rev up. So her pressure's pretty variable. So off of this, when you faint, you're +2. So you can do some light pressure. You can do some light pressure anyway. One thing I started doing is light fan swipe. Even though it's negative, you can push yourself out away from the lights while kind of pumping up the rev damage. So if they're not doing rev guard and I think they're just sitting really still, I can do that. If I think they won't hit a button, sometimes I'll get greedy and do that, but you got to be careful because a lot of thing I like to do. One of the things I like to do a lot, rather, excuse me, is this. But that can kind of get jabbed on reaction. So sometimes I'll mix in that. So yeah, if you take into account lights, cartwheel, close speed, sometimes you just keep dashing in if you really think they're just gonna sit there and see like what their limit is. She gets a strong frame tap off of this. Yeah, like I hit people with this a good bit once I've like harassed them enough, and it gives her like a lot of damage for I feel like pretty little. Let's go with crouch and light. Oh, not that one. That's pretty good too. Connect with the far side, and then you just get a lot of damage. So people who mash and pretty much lose half their life, right? One bar, and not much rev gauge. That's half life, and every character in the game has 1,000. Though that's kind of now skewed with SPG now giving defensive bonuses. I forget how much this is. Oh yeah, you also gotta be mindful. The link is actually pretty short. So yeah, you get 550 over half life if you catch them mashing. And all you need is one rev attack, and then one excel. So you still get 25% to work with. Super knocks out some, and then you got them knocked down. I don't remember getting a safe jump from that. I have to reevaluate my safe jumps because I feel like I've kind of gotten sloppy in doing guesstimates. But yeah, Maya has actually a good amount of safe jumps off of moves like this. She has a lot of overhead setups. So something I've been doing. So usually my go-to combo has been like most mods is this right here. Sorry. I hate when I drop stuff. Like, you do all that, and you get a decent amount of damage. And if you don't have super, you just you can do this or do another DP. Depending on what situation you want, how much rev gauge you want to knock out, how much screen space you want. But I've kind of I kind of landed right on that. So I got a +1 off that overhead, and it's +6 on hit, which means I can connect this. And I also have a second setup. And that gives me a +6. This is usually +3, but it gives you the you hit it on the last active frame and you get a +6 close close speed, which allows you to frame trap into this pretty seamlessly, even against 4 frame characters. So yeah, it's pretty good. She has a lot of setups like that, and I've gotten to the point. It sounds kind of funny, where I can almost eyeball. Let me get that off. Where I can almost eyeball when I can get a like there's a setup off of that, but it's +0, and it's not foolproof. And sometimes that happens when I whiff right, trying to hit that last active frame. But yeah, that's gotten to a point where like even off the cuff knockdowns, I can kind of guesstimate this. And it doesn't always work out, but a lot of times I can either combo or I can frame trap. I gotta work on it some more, but you know, sometimes it's even taking advantage of somebody. But yeah, Mai has a lot of stuff to run offense and defense. Another thing that you might kind of run into when someone's like does not feel very strongly about Mai is this right here. This is a very good move, but on the contrary, let's see if I can show this. Despite the fact that it's basically a sniper rifle, it has one big problem.
SPG.
You could basically, you know, if you are kind of back here, what a lot of people do is they pump in dash when they're like way back here. And if they see Mai do anything, animate, they'll do stuff like that. So they Mai's actually not really good at this. But yeah, this concept is like they can basically see what you're doing. From up here, it's a lot more ambiguous. You know, you have to like jump in anticipation. From back like half screen or more, you can almost see the fireball come out. It's super dope. Even like very weak players can do this to me. At first, I was like, are these guys just like psychic? But I was like, no, their decision making overall is really bad. But why they do this? It's basically. Oops. It has so much recovery that they can basically just jump in and just do that. And even if you whip, right? There's a lot of cases where you like, I kind of did that. Where like somebody was just gonna jump in anyway, because the common tactic in this game is just to jump in with empty jump at just defend. So a lot of people just, oh, I'm just gonna empty jump anyway, and then they'll get like a wild punish when they land in front of me, or they get a jump in because they see the fans come out under them. Because it's like, well, worst case scenario, I'm just gonna empty jump JD. So that's another big thing. And speaking of empty jump JD as a tactic, this is another place where Mai shines, ironically. Once she has a DP break, I don't know why when I'm streaming, I suddenly just like can't do anything. Let's see if I can, let's see, set him to just defend. So a lot of this, if they don't have like Mai, Mr. Big, or some of the other characters, generally they're just gonna get knocked back to neutral. This happens a lot, and this can not necessarily be a great situation for you. So a lot of the alternatives is like the hit deep, but Mai has this. Any characters with an air throw already at pretty advantage because this is a very common tactic. So if you're maintaining the space where this is a threat for somebody running up and then you see them back, this is very common and you can grab them from a lot of angles. It doesn't work from too far away, but yeah, it's pretty good. And then Mai specifically, this is on my YouTube, she can just immediately go in for a meaty close D, which is really good, and it catches a lot of people off guard. So let's say off a down, someone wants to like, you know, I'm gonna rip because you know, they just air throw. I don't think they can hit me. Did I say that right? Down, rip. Oh, he's not an SPG.
SPG.
Oh, whoops. Oh, this is also pretty good at stopping people from jumping too. It's like a quick there they go. So you do this. Oh, that works too. You notice how I hit the red bull out of 1 frame. So I've killed so many people. I've killed so many people with this. Because they don't believe that this is real. And sometimes they'll do it multiple times in the game. And so like a lot of times after I air throw somebody, I'll start doing stuff like this. Not that. Not that, but yeah. I don't know why my hands get all clumsy. But yeah, I was trying to feint. So yeah, I'll just do this and feint, and then they'll do like wake up super DP. Because they're anticipating this. And so again, a lot of weird wacky setups. And then even if they just block, it's just give you a lot of magic. So just like off of air throwing somebody, you can essentially take them below 50%. Very, very good stuff right there. So one of the things that I think makes mine pretty hard to play is that you do kind of have to know all these little things, lab out these little things to push your advantage, and be willing to kind of play like this. This is pretty good because not only does this frame trap 5 frame 2As, this does not work against 4 framers. This kind, so you can do this and then throw them eventually. And people who like the fuzzy jump, eventually people will mash, or you can just kind of get out of there. And plus, once you do the light, you can do variable timings. You can make the gap a little bigger for people who try to just defend, guard cancel out. Uh, what else? Something I kind of do, which is kind of a habit I've developed, is using that as a poke because it covers so much ground. Most characters' 2CR is static, but hers moves her forward. So I kind of use it as a makeshift poke just to get a knockdown. It's not always ideal because of stuff like that. And sometimes I'll just like whoops. Sometimes I'll just even let it go just to get close. And then on block is -5. So if they're ready to punish it, it usually works. You just basically be -4 there. It's funny enough. Yeah. So depending on where you do it from, they might not even get the 5 frame punish. So it's not a bad move to kind of throw in your arsenal. Now the downside of it is it's this right here. So that's a cross up. That happens a lot. So if you miss time as an anti-air, that happens a lot. That killed me so many times. And it's not really fun on So one of the big things is this. You have to be able to do this. Which is like, even for, I should say, seasoned veterans, quote unquote, this is hard. This is hard to do consistent, especially in a game with runs and hops and everything. But I think once you can do this, once you can do that consistently, it changes a lot of things. Even if it doesn't do much damage, most people start thinking, oh, I can't just jump at this person. Especially when you start mixing in this. Especially even if you have to show the setup. So, like, Mai is pretty layered. The problem that I will say with this character is she doesn't really have a slop strategy. I hate to say that word, but it's kind of apt. A lot of characters have this thing where they can just kind of do it over and over again, and it's hard to punish, and it gives them a lot of damage. Like Mr. Big, who just came out, pushing out your far C because if you jump or you're not close enough, it's hard to wild punish. And a lot of characters probably are not gonna have easy time with that, depending on the range. And so, but if he hits you with it and you're on the ground, he gets to confirm it with the target combo follow up, and then basically nuke your health bar. So he has that strategy. Obviously, it's beatable. You can space it and wild punish consistently, but like as you're kind of moving around and stuff like that, it's a layer one to kind of check to see how good someone actually is. Mine doesn't really have it, mainly because of this kind of concept right here. And so, like, the best thing I can say is maybe this, but people are gonna naturally mash buttons afterwards. So that's why this is harder to do. So I guess one of the things you can do is do this and buffer just defend until guard casts DP for jabbers. This kinda, but again, a lot of people, even people who are not very strong, they'll play like this. They'll do their Street Fighter stuff, and then if they see you approaching, they won't even anti-air most of the time. They'll just back up, and then they'll block everything out, or they'll start fuzzy jumping. So when you actually do, okay, I'm gonna jump, this person blocked, and I'm gonna like do a button, and I'm gonna throw, and then they fuzzied, and then you die. So throws are kind of an interesting thing. I've kind of like, I don't want to say abandon them, but I look at them in a different light. So I use them for people in very specific circumstances. One of the things I'm trying to implement is kind of, but yeah, that's the big weakness of the Maya is that it's really, really hard. You have to kind of use, I don't want to say brain power, but you have to be like hyper aware of people, even when they're not very good. If they can just like do combos, but the decision making is kind of awkward. You can't really just say, oh, I'm just gonna. Actually, this is a good opportunity. Because not every character has. Some characters have this problem, but not a lot of them. Like I just talked about Mr. Big Farsi. I don't know enough about Joe. Andy, he has his teleport to the other side. Air fireball. Things that can kind of like hit you off guard, and he can just suddenly get a bunch of damage and a knockdown from. Jump seat. The thing that crosses you up has an active hitbox on the way up and down. And if you happen to like try to crouch jab him, sometimes he'll snipe you. It's just this whole character. She has a very safe pressure. She can't be pushed. It's very hard to push her away. I'm not gonna say it's impossible. It's hard to push her away with Rev Guard. She's kind of always in far C range, and even if she doesn't have advantage, it puts you the burden of you being like consistently ready for to tap that button at the right time. Because if you miss it, she gets the counter hit, and she kills you instead. And if you don't do anything, she's gonna 2C you and start pressure. Kind of similar. He does a lot of C buttons and keeps dashing up. He's kind of in the same position as Mai, in a sense, but yeah, yeah. So he can just kind of put stuff on the screen, and if you get hit, he gets to juggle. Generally he just kind of dashes at you, and if you don't know better, and then he'll just cancel and use his plus range to kind of annoy you. So this is one of the characters you kind of have to have a little knowledge on, but yeah, he can just kind of nuke you from things that move him forward if you don't understand him. Air fireball, run up button. Pretty much, he has a bunch of forward momentum moves that can counter hit you and get a lot of value from it. So it forces you to get to know how to counter Terry to a degree. 2C, you know, she's kind of a lot of creatures will sit back, they'll throw the fireball, and they'll dash into C or partially, and then they just do the cancels. So that's their kind of strategy because it's hard to jump around and she's moving under you and stuff like that. Uh, Marco, yeah, he does, but it's kind of weird. But yeah, EX Tatsu is kind of one of them. Where you just kind of EX Tatsu break -2, and then he can put the DP in front of you if you think you're gonna push the button to take your advantage. Just generally her movements. If you don't know how to hyper defend her dress swipe or the hop, whatever it's called, she can kind of take a lot of advantage of you, and then she can cross you up kind of over and over again. Yeah, just kind of the same thing as Terry. Puts just kind of a big hitboxes in front of you and then cashes out. Just moving around. Like his layer one, the things that make him deep and solid also kind of make him shallow and hard to defend at layer one. Yeah, just jump C and far C. Yeah, the fact that he can just run and do a bunch of stuff in the air. Like even if a lot of it is awkward to confirm from his normals, he has a lot of stuff that can just like layer one people who are weak. Field Dominator, you know the move where he knocks the ball up in the air, can do it. Even without like having really deep knowledge of that, you can still like abuse that heavily on people because it's just a big hitbox in front of them. Crouching and kick, crouching medium kick, cancel for both of these characters. Jinrai a little bit for him, and for her, it's just basically just crouching medium kick into a bunch of damage. Man, this is Jinrai. So yeah, most characters have something they can do to just kind of shut down people who are weak or have bad decision making. Mine kind of doesn't.
All right,
And she's kind of,
I'm ready.
you can argue that's a
It's
thing that makes her
showtime.
weak, quote unquote, but I think it's just one of those things where it's like, you have to do a lot of work before she becomes stable against certain people. And even then, you still might kind of like miss a jump in or something to get you.
SPG.
So yeah, I definitely understand why people have issues with mine. So I don't like sit down and go, well, this person says mine is bad, they're wrong and stupid. It's more like I understand why they say it. I don't agree because of all the stuff I kind of been pointing out here. What else? What else? I can't think of anything else I want to point out with this. I feel like I've hit most of the high points. I kind of talked about our low points. Another thing that kind of annoys me is the pushback on some of her stuff is just kind of undesirable. So 2C just never 2C feels like an amazing tool, but you just never can keep yourself in the range for it. There's even a couple of counter hits where you get exactly +8, which is a startup, and you just can't hit. So that's another one thing I would kind of counter this to. So it's just more about kind of learning what does work and then sticking to it pretty relentlessly. EX Fireball, instead of like using them as her fireballs at all, instead of using them as zoning tools like you would like a I don't know, maybe a dial or something. You want to do it here like you would a poke. Actually, I would say like instead of doing this from like this far back, that's appropriate because they have to like really guess. If you want to start fresher, you can do that. Or just do that if you think they're gonna backdash. This is like a space where people want to backdash, get the space. So that'll flip them in the air, knock them down, and give you an opportunity for pressure. So here, it's a lot harder to just jump on her. You would have to like be very, very preemptive, which if you just don't do anything like that, was a lot of people who dash up or run up. This is actually a really good check for people who actually move, whether it's jumping, hopping, or running. So once you kind of learn how to navigate the nuances, it's hard, but then you start to see where the stability in this character lies. And I think she's like one of those characters that rewards you for character knowledge and game knowledge and building up your arsenal essentially, instead of just giving you stuff that works out of the box. And I think, and usually when all the characters are like this, that doesn't mean they're good, bad, or strong, weak, or whatever. It just means that they require assembly. So in the world of patches, I can see why people don't want to do that. And my conclusion is that mine is actually fairly good once you put all that stuff together. Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, when I say a lot of people, most of the people I interact with Discord, people whose conversations I read but don't, join in, they're saying they want to see buffs, but I never really see what they want buffed outside of obviously this. And the reason why this isn't buffed, and the reason why I think it won't be buffed, is the kind of thing I was stating with Hotaru earlier. So Hotaru can
SPG.
generally kind of push herself with a lot of her pressure tools, kind of leave her in 2C range. Well, not that. So she can. So even when you push her out of range, you can do this, and then like there's ranges where it won't work, but you'll think, okay, I have a frame advantage. Jab, and then your jab will whiff just as it's coming around, and you'll get you'll get lit up and killed. So it's this button. So basically, what the reason why this doesn't beat crouchers, this doesn't hit crouchers from a range. Yo, Fatal Fangs? Yo, I haven't heard from you in a good while. What's up? What is good? You still on that VF? But yeah. So the big reason I'm just going through all this. Okay, so the big reason why this isn't hit crouches from far range is because they didn't want her to do this and just do that and land you on someone crouching just to go in and then pressure again. And then once you decide to jump, this will snipe you. If you decide to hit a button, this will kill you. If you decide to block, she'll just do it again. So it was supposed to give her give a counter for ref guard. That's funny. I like how her activates. I actually didn't know that because I don't press it that fast. Yeah, that's the big reason. You saw how when she was in overheat, it hit right, jab jab, farsi. But that's why that move does not hit crouchers. Because it would just basically be my pushing yourself out of pressure and then pushing yourself back in. Yeah, man. I'm not super serious about games these days, but you know, I find one I like and I try to put a little time into it here and there. But you know, as we get older, it's just the driving always there. But you know, I still have love for the community and the hobby, so I like to stick with it to some degree. Hope everything's going well with you. I don't know if you're sticking with it, but if you are, that's good too. If not, that's good. Oh man, I'm trying to think of what else I'm missing with my that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I don't know what they would buff on her besides maybe some range changes. Like I would like to see this kind of get some range. I like a little more range on 2A here. I want it to kind of be in a bit of a future pool. A lot of people complain about. Okay, I keep forgetting to turn this off. Let's see, turn that off. So here's a good thing people complain about. But not that. Yeah, I changed my stick recently. That's probably why I have to get used to how it feels. But yeah, so a lot of people go, this doesn't work. Go straight to jab. As far as her hidden gear. So a lot of people actually complain about this, and I even told them that this does more damage and it works all the time. Oh, you really haven't? Oh, I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of hobbies, a lot of stuff in life. So it's not like there won't be other games out there that you might be into, or some older game you might check out again. Yeah, like I haven't been playing much PF lately. But also gives her access to gotta get used to square hitting. Gives her access to that, which a lot of people don't realize too. Like that doesn't even work, but this 3 button sequence works. Well, not that one. Which is pretty good. So one of my favorite things to try to end the round in and stuff like this. I can't. I gotta go back. I think I need to go back to my but yeah. So that's a really good because a lot of people like will back up and they won't see this as a threat. So yeah, that's a really good thing. More people I would like to see more people use. More of the frame traps. I don't see enough of the disconnect you don't see on encounters in a lot of places too. But I want to see more frame traps off of OP from people. That 4 frame normals while also kind of being a harass tool. You know, against 5 frame games, like I mentioned earlier, that works. But this piece, I ain't supposed to do anything. I might not upload this to YouTube. But yeah, there's a lot of things I think are valuable for her. I just want to see like maybe some pushback changes, some slight ones, some little bit of hitbox extensions here and there. But nothing crazy. Cause I can't think of any way you can buff her without just making her a second Otaru. If you do this, if you make this hit from this far back on a crouching opponent, she's just better Otaru without a run. She's just Otaru without a run, I guess. There's better aspects to her. Better aspects that she has over Otaru once you give her that. Although she does not have a run. And she can't follow behind her fireball. Yeah. There's a 9 frame sweep. A lot of frame traps, a lot of setups. I think really the main thing holding her back is the fact that characters like Hotaru and Kain and Hoku tomorrow have minimal risks to a lot of their strategies. And the fact that she is a requires assembly character. You have to put together a lot of these moving parts before this all starts to work. These aren't things you can just go, okay, well, mine do this combo, play this strategy, and it works. It's more like, okay, after watching See what my opponent likes to do. They like to hop, they like to jump, they like to poke,
Okay.
they like to run at you, they like to back up so much. And then you have to kind of like
Okay.
use her versatility to kind of meet their strategy in the middle. As opposed to
Okay.
this character, she just essentially has to just do this. And then this. And then this. And some degree of this and this. And just that alone. Once they're scared of all that, then she can just do stuff like this. And it's not to say that this character isn't deep. Hotaru isn't deep. She doesn't have a lot of great stuff that great players can take advantage of and do great things. But the very baseline stuff is just really hard to counter for most characters. And so you don't really have to go get all that involved. It's just if you do, you probably get a lot more value out of it.
Okay.
But mine doesn't have stuff like that. So I see why that discourages people who just kind of wanted to engage the game at face value.
Okay.
Trying to think of anything else I would like to discuss.
Okay.
System changes. So, system changes. I think they should remove the defense modifier on SPG. I know why they put it in there, but I think they should evaluate their formula for how damage is assessed. That way, you know, some characters can get a little more and some characters can get a little bit less and it can kind of even out.
Okay.
I think that would help my a lot. What else?
Okay.
Oh, there's something else I want to talk to. Because, remember, this is all off the cuff. If opponent is not an SPG and they're doing this, this is something I've been experimenting with, but like, they can't block this, right? So like, you kind of use it as a wall. If you just kind of neutral jumping, you can stop people from blocking. So I actually started. I hated this at first because it doesn't really do anything to people on the ground. But now it's like, okay, I've started to like it a lot, especially against this situation. So I'm not sitting here saying that this will solve all your problems, but I've started to see value in aerial blow where a lot of people didn't.
SPG.
Especially like when characters do this. Since he's an automatic counter hit state, you get that. Assuming he doesn't faint first. But a lot of Okotomaru will kind of like hover above you. And so, yeah. I still haven't gotten it to the way I want it to. It's still a really great idea. Because it kind of teaches them that they can't just like hover up. Especially if you kind of stay out of the But then again, a lot of people are just not going to believe that. Because they just go, oh, I can't slop this on somebody, so why do I care? So outside of that, I just use my setups. Another big thing on my people probably look at is leaning heavily on meterless combos instead of that does quite a bit. And if they this has become like one of my go-tos. It does literally a third of somebody's life.
SPG.
With no rev gauge is used. And I also use there's actually set up there, but you know. But yeah, that's something I've kind of like started leaning on is more meterless combos. And then just trying to win neutral over and over again. Until I get like something that gives me another setup. I feel like I've been But yeah, I think overall, I think Maya's alright. She's a solid pick. She's not some secret sleeper top tier that's gonna like take the tournament world by storm. But she has all the solid tools to kind of fight all the characters. It's like she has solid counters to everything, but they require like mindfulness, skill, and knowledge. Which can be kind of burdensome, especially in, like I said, in the patch era. But overall, I have a very high opinion of her. And And I think somebody who specializes in a character like Mai, specializes in characters like Ronaldo, Fox, Rock, Andy, I think they can very much win tournaments even now with how kind Hokotomaru and Hotaru are. That's a controversial statement to agree, but I really think they can. Like you've even seen Foxes and Ronaldo's win, and you've seen strong showings from I think Jenny players, and I think Kevin's too. But yeah, I think people really should sit down and look deeper at the game instead of just taking everything that's at the surface and then kind of projecting that as to what the entire game really is. So overall, I think if you like Mai, you should play her. But I think if you want some kind of immediate gratification, you should avoid her. And that's not even a thing saying she's strong or weak. It's just you shouldn't if you just want like an immediately effective strategy. The fun for Mai is kind of unlocking that stuff because it kind of scratches the same itch as Faust did in Exit for me, where I'm figuring out all these little nuances, figuring out all these interactions, figuring out all this little bit of tech, and then it's not just like on paper, on theory, but it's actually helping me win. Because recently, I can say I'm proud enough to say, I haven't played any matches in this rank yet, but I managed to get Legendary Wolf. I guess I'll show this. It's kind of
Ranked match.
I was gonna start Mr. Big, but I'll show you. Which, as you can see, I got the Legendary Wolf right there. So I've earned my way up to the top. Didn't even take that many matches, I don't think. Like, yeah, I'm less than 1,000, I think. But yeah, got about 400 hours in the game, I think. So I think like once I put real time in, run real sets, I might actually get some real value out of my mind. I haven't done any real tournaments. Like I entered Maximo, and that's when the game first came out. I went like 1 and 2. Because I didn't really know what I was doing. I entered SWC, but I was like, I don't really like sitting in the DreamHack or Congress Center. I just kind of wanted to go home after I did my Sam Show pools. That's what I did. But I'm thinking of maybe trying an online tournament, but I don't really like online play. And I guess that's one last. I think that's where I'll end on is online play. So
Training.
I think mine kind of sucks in the context of online because there's a
All
lot
right.
of,
I'm ready.
Let's have
especially
fun.
against characters that have a run. There's a lot of guessing, and because of how rollback works, and just online in general, even in a good connection, you can't rely on watching how a person is moving. You have to guess. Like
SKT.
offline, if somebody did something like this, I would just be like, okay, well, I'll just stare and watch them sway back and forth and pretend to show up or to get close. And then when they do this, I'm like, oh, I'll be ready to end here. But online, they'll be like this. I'll see a backdash, and then I'm thinking the game will show them keep walking, but since the how rollback works is there's a small decent rollback guesses on what they do. So maybe they showed me this. They showed me like because the person is walking back after the backdash for a few frames. And we'll say that rollback's like, okay, we desynced a little bit. We're just gonna assume they kept walking back. But what'll happen is they do this. And so what I'll be looking at is this on my screen, but what really happened just a few frames ago is this. And so what I thought was a back walk, like where they're back where this guy in the green shirt is, and then the game will resync back, and then I suddenly see them dashing up into a jump. And so like a lot of this stuff that these people do becomes suddenly a lot more threatening. This is not threatening. This is not threatening offline because I can see clearly everything you're doing. I see your character walking back. I see the moment where you decide to run in and jump. I hear the sound that the dash jump makes. Online, I don't see it until about right here. Because the last thing I saw was this character was walking back. So a lot of times you kind of have to go, okay, one day I'll hit corners. But yeah, you have to start guessing. And so a lot of times I'll go, okay, they're gonna keep running at me, and then I'll do this, and I'll get jumped anyway. And so a lot of people do they lean very heavily into how online works, and so they'll constantly do stuff like this, thinking that they're baiting you. Like, okay, I'm gonna bait out a button, but they're way back here. They're not like if they run up this close and back up. That's understandable, right? But then once you run this close, you're vulnerable to hops, to me dashing up to you. and stuff like that. But from back here, I don't care. But this is a real threat online because I don't know when you're gonna shift into some animation I didn't see, and so I end up having to like, well, do I just wait for them to do this? Because online you can't trick me by dancing back and forth and then suddenly running up and jabbing me. What? Because like as soon as I see you, I can just do that. Like I know the range where you can't jump at me anymore. Like where it's a risk for you to have to choose something that beats my 2C. Like if you want to run up and do this, and then if I don't do anything, then you look stupid, right? So that's not really stable online or offline, but it's extremely good offline because I have to wait or anticipate stuff, and then so like I feel like even there's another layer where mine just can't really be that effective online. That's how it is. I think offline with all the stuff I've kind of left and the stuff I see, I think she'll be pretty good there. Part of me is tempted to kind of get serious about competing with her, but we'll have to see how 2026 goes. But other than that, that's all I wanted to do. I just want to kind of make this YouTube video to kind of rant and rave about a character that I've been playing, that I've seen opinions about, that I have my own opinions about, and nothing I say is definitively right over anyone else's. Someone else goes, why is trash? Because A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, they're just as valid as me. This is just my kind of stream of consciousness and thing I kind of want to do for the new year ended. Because a lot of people don't play this character. And a lot of people have differing opinions on these characters. And even beyond mine, I think the game has a lot of treasure trove of information and great power that each character can unlock for the most part. Even characters like Tizon. It's a bit of a struggle, man. But a lot of people talk about these characters basically, as Jibbo would say, there's top five and there's bottom, rest of the cast. And that's how people kind of look at the games. And I think it's a little sad to see, but I also get it. I might do a Q&A stream, but I don't think enough people will come through here. And plus, I'm definitely not going to set my channel to City of the Wolves. It's always going to stay on World War Tennis. But anyone who sat down and listened to anything I was ranting about for any few minutes, and if you're watching on YouTube and you watched this whole thing and got to here, thank you. I appreciate you. I don't expect more than like a handful of people to watch, but any one person who watches this and finds any value out of it, has anything to say. So if you're in the comments, feel free to ask me questions, to debate me or anything like that. As long as you come at me with respect and with the facts, and